Hello everyone and welcome back to another Tips from the Trenches. My name is Janine and I'm looking forward to spending this session with you. In our previous session, we looked at what exactly dementia is. We discussed the differences between Alzheimer's disease and dementia, and then we looked at our first myth. Is dementia part of normal aging? So as we grow older, is it inevitable that we will all get dementia? And thank goodness we debunked that myth. I do want to thank those that left comments, that asked questions, and in particular I want to talk about the one question we received because it is a common concern. So the person asked, how do I know what disease is causing the dementia and is it important to know? Well, firstly, I want to emphasize that getting a diagnosis for dementia is a complicated, a complex, and a very often, unfortunately, long process. However, going to see the doctor sooner than later has many benefits. One of the first things the doctor will do is to try to rule out if it's a treatable condition. So like depression, vitamin deficiencies, and even an infection, these are all treatable, but they often mimic the symptoms of dementia. And then other possibilities that could be causing confusion can include hearing loss or poor eyesight. And then secondly, early detection benefits both the person living with dementia and the family member or friend, as it provides an explanation for the symptoms that the person is experiencing and causing memory loss. And this can reduce the stress that is experienced by the person with these symptoms, because often the person feels as if others think that they are just not trying hard enough, or that they have control over these symptoms and are just trying to be difficult. So without an explanation of what's going on, they're left wondering and struggling. But once there's a diagnosis, now I, as a family caregiver, can start understanding that, oh, so maybe Dad, when he kept blaming me for not telling him about arrangements, even though I know I told him and reminded him, it wasn't his fault. It is actually due to the changes in his brain. And so my previous response, where I would say, Dad, you're just not listening, you're not concentrating, you need to focus, try harder. Maybe my approach needs to be different. I need a more compassionate approach now that I know that it's not his fault. And then finally, another good reason for early diagnosis is that treatment of Alzheimer's disease and other dementias is typically most effective when started early in the disease process. So at the same time, I know that there might be people listening today who are desperately trying to get their person to the doctor and there is resistance. Unfortunately, depending on how the disease has progressed and where it is in that stage, people often lose the ability to have insight into their changes. So this is not the same as denial. The person actually is not able to understand these changes any longer. And this can be a very challenging time for family because no matter what angle you take, how you try to discuss this, it's met with resistance, and usually if you don't try another strategy, it will just end up in conflict. So if you are going through something like this at the moment, I would really encourage you to contact your local Alzheimer's Society or association. Here in BC, a great resource that the Alzheimer's Society of BC provides is our dementia helpline. And I'll put those links into the comments later on. So let's take a look at our second myth. Some people are concerned about a family history of Alzheimer's disease, and genetics is often a question that comes up around Alzheimer's disease. Well, just because your grandmother or your mother had Alzheimer's disease does not mean you will get it. Yes, genetics plays a part, but it is strictly not just genetics. Familial Alzheimer's disease is genetic, but that actually only accounts for less than 5% of all cases diagnosed. And this gene does tend to cause more young onset Alzheimer's, which is primarily diagnosed in the 50s and 60s. Although people have this fear of a family history of Alzheimer's disease, in fact, it's often a family history of dementia due to other causes like cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diabetes. And that is why reducing our risk of these diseases also decreases our overall risk of developing dementia. So while there are some risk factors that you cannot control for dementia, such as age and genetics, there are many other that we can reduce the risk factors of and that we do have control over. And so I'd invite you to join me in our next session so that we can take a look at these risk factors and that we can see the ones that we do have control over and discuss some tips and strategies on how we're going to do that. So I would also really appreciate it if you share this video with people that you think will benefit from it. As usual, I will put links in the comments because this is a very quick, high-level overview. And so if you want to dig a little deeper, take a look at those links. Thank you for your time. As always, I wish you strength, I wish you peace, and I wish you moments of joy today. Goodbye.